Seminary. To contact Dean Father John Parker, you can write to spirit@ancientfaith.com. This has been another listener-supported podcast of Ancient Faith Radio.
Christ is in our midst. He is and ever shall be. You're listening to Ancient Faith Radio, timeless Christianity 24 hours a day.
This is Everyday Orthodox with your host, Elisa Bielatich Davis. We get together on Sunday nights to meet everyday Orthodox Christians. We're hoping to get to know the members of the body of Christ across all of our various jurisdictions and regions. We may worship in various languages or even on different calendars, but we have so much in common. Come get to know someone new and see how they're living out this Orthodox faith in another corner of the world. After all, every person is an icon of Christ, and as we'll see, every person has a story to tell. If you have a question for tonight's guest, we invite you to call in and join the conversation at 1-855-237-2346. That's 1-855-AF-RADIO. Now, here's Elisa.
Welcome to Everyday Orthodox. It is December 4th, 2022, and we are live on Ancient Faith Radio. I'm Elisa Bielatich Davis, and we get together here every Sunday night to meet another everyday Orthodox Christian. You know, here in North America, at least, and really all over the world, we Orthodox people are divided up into different jurisdictions, and very often, we're worshiping right down the street from another Orthodox church, but we don't know anyone over there. And so, if you're in the Greek church, you might not know anyone at the local Antiochian church or the Russian church or the Serbian church. And I found over the years being a convert, I got to move around among the churches as I worked my way into Orthodoxy. And I started in the Serbian church, and then I was OCA, and then I was in the Greek church. I have a lot of friends in the Antiochian church, and I found that we're all so similar, but then at the same time, the differences are also really kind of fascinating, right? The beautiful traditions and just the spirit and the personality of different sorts of people. And here in the Orthodox Church, we have people who are immigrants, we have people who grew up in families of immigrants, and then we have converts who come in from all over the place, different walks of life. They find the Orthodox Church in the craziest ways. And so I love getting to know Orthodox people. I think everybody has a fascinating story. I still haven't met anyone whose story wasn't interesting, quite frankly. But I'm glad that you've joined us tonight. And we're also joined by Matushka Trudy Richter. She is producing the show, and she's taking your calls. The phone number is 1-855 AF Radio. That's 1-855-237-2346. And you can call anytime because we're live tonight. And you can ask questions of our guests. You can join the conversation. You're absolutely welcome. Now, tonight's guest is actually a friend of mine. And so I'm really excited to have her on the show and get the opportunity to talk with her for a little while, really just because I like to talk to her anyway. But I'm happy to invite you to get to know her as well. Her name is Katrina Bitar. And Katrina is the director of Youth Equipped to Serve. That's YES, Y-E-S. And that's a ministry of Focus North America. And it's a beautiful youth ministry. I really love YES. If you have listened to me talk for very long, I'm sure you've heard me talk about it because I bring it up all the time. I really think that it is the absolute best youth ministry that our Orthodox Church does because it's so focused on Christ and it's so practical. It's about like what you can actually do today to live your life the way that Christ wants to live your life. So I think it's beautiful. I think it's so transformative for so many young people. And so tonight, as we're talking to Katrina, we're going to hear about Katrina herself because she's delightful as well. But also, we'll hear a little bit about that ministry because it's pretty neat. And I can't help but want to hear more about it. So, without any further ado, welcome to the program, Katrina.
Hello, Elisa. It's so great to be here. Hi,
Oh,
everybody who's listening.
hello, everyone. Yes, and it's so good to have you on the show, Katrina. I'm excited. You've actually been on the show before, I know, but I feel like
Mhm.
when a few years go by, it's always nice to come back and do it again because it's always just, I don't know. There are plenty of stories we didn't cover the first time, and also there are a lot of things that are
Hmm.
new and that have changed. And I don't even think you lived in
Yeah.
Oklahoma when you were on the show before, so see, there's already a huge difference. You've
Yeah.
moved across the country. But so tell me though, so
Yeah.
you're in Oklahoma now, but or you live in Oklahoma now, but where does your story start? Where were you born?
I was actually born in Southern California, where I am currently visiting family. I was born in Burbank, and my father was an assistant priest in Los Angeles. So me and another of my siblings were born here, and we were in California just about 7 years. We moved up north, and we grew up mostly in New Jersey, though. So when we were very young, before my youngest brother was born, we moved to New Jersey. So we popped around a bit, but yeah, I consider myself more of an East Coast girl than a West Coast girl, even though I was
Yeah,
born out here.
I
But
was gonna
yeah,
say I really don't think of you as like Los Angeles. You know,
no,
that's so
yeah,
funny. That's so funny. But so
I definitely
your
have more New York in me, for sure.
your dad was an Orthodox priest. Did that mean that you guys moved around a lot, or at least I guess within one diocese, right? So how often did you guys end up moving as kids?
Well, we actually didn't move much, and we didn't even stay in the diocese where he started. We just moved from Northern California to New Jersey, right outside of New York City. And he was there from 85 until he retired in 2011. So a long time.
Oh, wow.
We grew up there. Most of us went to college there. And yeah,
That's
so that's
awesome.
where we spent most of our lives, in a beautiful parish in northern Jersey. Yeah.
Oh, that's fantastic. That's really neat. And
Yeah.
so,
Yeah.
okay, so it was your mom and dad, and is it three siblings? Is that right? I
Three
mean,
siblings, all
you and
younger.
two other group of three total, right? Or is that right?
Oh, four total. Four
Oh,
total.
four total. It is. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. You're
Yeah.
the oldest
Hmm.
of four. Ah, excellent. What were
I'm
you
the
like as
oldest
a
of four.
kid? I
Oh
couldn't
my
quite picture
goodness.
you as a kid. Like that's hard for me to do, weirdly enough. What were you like?
It's not a question I get a lot, but every time someone asks me what I was like as a kid, the first thing that comes to my mind was it's like not much different. I think that I grew up really fast. I don't know why. I always kind of think of myself as this person that was kind of surrounded by people a lot that needed me or something from me, or I don't know. I just kind of, yeah, it definitely have evolved very much in my life, but I think certain kind of parts of me were always apparent even as a kid, of like just kind of nurturing people and gathering people. And yeah, that's it's funny that you say you can't picture me as a kid, because I had three younger siblings. My youngest brother was born when I was 10, so we took care of him a lot. And I was home. My dad was a priest, and I was home with them a lot, my siblings. So I don't know if it's a combination of that and just, I don't know, whatever God was doing in my life. But yeah,
I
I
can
didn't.
definitely see you as the
Yeah,
big sister, like taking care of your brother, taking care of
yeah.
the younger ones, and kind of uh, kind of shepherding them along a little bit. And I know that you had
Mm.
your parents were sweethearts, weren't they? Like you had really sweet parents, as I recall.
Yeah, they're just. I was actually I'm visiting my brother now. We were talking about this yesterday. How my parents weren't the ones who like took all this time to teach us how to change a tire or to cook, or like we had to learn a lot of like basic kind of growing up things ourselves. But they definitely modeled, and without a lot of intention, even just demonstrated what it was to be a person who loved God and a person who thought first about others. And we just saw our parents just have an open home, open hearts to people that others just were disregarding or just afraid to get close to. Like, Christmas for us was dad's going to go drop off presents to all the people in church that, aren't able to get presents for their kids. And he didn't, have a lot himself. But he had a lot of room for a lot of people. And my mother was kind of more simple than my dad. My dad was very complex. But mom was just a faithful servant, simple. So yeah, they modeled just loving humanity, loving God, being people of just thought first about everyone outside of our home, but we never felt a lack of love either. It was,
That's
yeah,
beautiful. And that's a tough thing for a
yeah,
priest because there are so many demands on them, right? So you do, on the one hand, it is
yes,
beautiful because it role models all of this giving and this like emotional generosity and physical generosity. But then also, sometimes it does make a family feel like, gosh, he's never around. But so it's good that you still
yeah,
felt all of that love. But he was probably, would you say that like he was gone long hours and stuff, right? But how does he make up for that? Like
for sure.
how did he manage to make you guys feel like
Mm.
you were still a priority and that he loved you so much, but also have so much of his time called away to other people?
Yeah, I think it was a combination of taking us a lot of places with him. Like we would go home visits with him, go bless people's we'd go bless people's homes, and he had this like tiny little cross that one of us would hold, and we just kind of get around with him to people's houses. But he also just took a lot of time to do special things for us. And um yeah, like he would he's the parent that, they always cared about our grades, but like if he was like, "Do you guys have homework?" and we were like, "No," he'd get excited. He, just let's do something. Let's go somewhere. Let's whatever, Um so I don't remember a lot of like report cards on the fridge with a lot of stress in my house, but we all did well because it mattered to them, but time together really mattered to dad and mom as well. So,
Ah, that's beautiful.
yeah.
That's excellent.
Yeah.
I love that. So then,
Mhm.
as you were growing up, what did you imagine yourself doing? Like, well, in fact, a lot of
Oh
people,
my goodness.
like a lot of
Yeah.
kids who grew up with priests as fathers, like a lot of times the women become priests' wives. But I feel like probably when they're growing up, they don't want to be. But I don't know. Like, did you look at your parents' life
Yeah.
and go, oh, this is lovely and definitely not for me? Or did you look at it and feel like, oh, I want to work for the church somehow. I want to serve the church in some capacity. Like, what did you think?
I actually don't remember having any thoughts like as far as like mirroring my parents' lives about working in the church. I think they were very good at allowing for each of us to pursue what we were discovering about ourselves, like uniquely from them. Like for instance, I always loved writing, and I started undergrad as a journalism major, and got told really quickly that I was too creative of a writer. So then I I started doing communication and creative writing. So I went to college kind of pursuing writing, pursuing that. And it was the same with the rest of my siblings. Like whatever each of us felt called to, like we loved the life of, we had a million different people in our parish that we were just embraced by. And we didn't grow up by a lot of my mom or dad's immediate family. Like my dad's family slowly came over from overseas, but my mom's family's all in Michigan. So the church was our family, and it was more like kind of we were children of the church than kind of feeling like, oh, I want to have mom's life or dad's life. Like it's a hard life. And you know, I don't know, I didn't reject it, I think, or pursue it, but it was more like them supporting us in discovering who we were. And allowing us to do that. There was never like doctor, lawyer, engineer pressure. There was never any of that. Like they didn't care about some kind of like professional, status or anything that made them feel comfortable with us as far as a career. And I think that's why each of us has kind of settled into our own lives as adults and are just feeling really kind of content and peaceful in how God has led us because they've supported that consistently. And I didn't feel ministry calling. Like I kind of started to at the end of high school, and I've always felt like this call to nurture people and take care of people and listen to people and give quote unquote advice. When you're in high school, it's like advice, but um, I think it was when I started being a camp counselor during college that I started feeling very much like I need to be with teenagers, and I felt like that was clear to me. But yeah, it was more because they let us have experiences. They provided strong community for us, and then they let us go out and be challenged and supported those kind of, I don't know, the callings we felt to go be part of different things and be part of different communities and always have them to come home to and our church to come home to. And
I
so,
love that.
really grateful for that.
Well,
I
I
think
feel
that's
like
kind of how we
that's
all
real
found
truth.
our lives.
That's like them really
Yeah.
trusting God, right? Like there's so much of what we do with our kids where it's like, well, you have to be a doctor, you have to be a lawyer, you have to have this education, you have to have, because we're trying to protect them from all the things that can go wrong in life. So it's like,
Yeah.
I'm trying to set
Yeah.
you up for success so that I don't have to worry about you. But when you really love God and you really trust God, then it's like, oh, well, God's going to take care of you. And so you just need to figure out what gifts he's given you. And that's, I don't know, that's so much more
Mhm.
beautiful. It's interesting though, because,
Mhm.
in a priest's family, you usually hear, um, just sort of that frustration and pressure from having been a priest's kid, and this idea that like, oh, everybody was watching me, and there was, all this concern about
Mm,
whether I was behaved well enough, and so it feels like that just was not a problem for you guys.
Not not very much. I think even more sometimes it was more of a problem like in school or when people found out like my dad was a priest, like people that weren't from church. It would kind of put this, "Oh, you're like an angel. Whatever, whatever, like all this kind of stuff." Um but I don't my parents never put any of that on us. And maybe we put it on ourselves a little bit at times, but I think it came more from like our friends finding out, you know, wait, your dad can be a priest? Wait, what? Like what does that mean? And all of that, like growing up in school and stuff. But for the most part, I think it wasn't a driving factor. Yeah,
That's
for us at
great.
least.
That is very nice, actually. That's very nice.
Yeah,
Well, good. So you went to school for writing. Were you like when you
I did.
started with journalism, were you thinking you'd be a journalist, or were you just thinking, I'm good at writing, journalism is a job? And they were like, listen, this is about writing the shortest, clearest sentences ever, and this is not for you. Like what? What was
Pretty
that?
much. Like I think I chose it because it was something clear with writing.
Yeah.
And, creative writing or whatever felt a little bit more ambiguous.
Yeah.
But I think as, college went on, I became a communications major. That was helpful to me in different ways. And then also like having a creative writing major, um, I started writing short stories a lot and got one published in college. Don't know where that is anymore. Um, but yeah, and
Oh,
writing still comes in handy a lot with work and writing articles and even just when I have a thought that I feel like needs pondering or something to be taught on or just like ideas come to me. I was writing a lot actually during the first year of the pandemic. I think it was every day for a little bit, then maybe every week, but it always comes in to the ministry in the way of just working out my thoughts on things. Like writing has always been a tool for that, and just kind of exploring things that thoughts that come in, and ideas that people are pondering, or if conversations are out there kind of debating different things. Like I'll pray and think a lot on it, and then write, and work it out. Like where do I think, you know, how do we navigate towards Christ in this situation? And so writing has kind of become that for me, in ministry.
That's so helpful to have that
Yeah.
tool. That's lovely. And
Yeah.
then, so I mean, and I think, maybe one of these days you'll end up writing a book, Katrina, because I actually now
Oh, I
want
don't
to find
know.
that story you published, because I'm just like, wow, what would Katrina have
Yeah.
written as a story
Oh.
when she was in college? How interesting. I love that. That's very
Yeah.
interesting. So, but so now when you
We'll see.
finished
Maybe I'll find it.
school, when you
Hmm.
finished college, like what
Yeah.
did you do? Where did you, because that is, as you said, right? Like getting a creative writing degree is not as clear cut as getting a journalism degree. Because journalism, you're like, okay, let me find
No.
a newspaper or a magazine and get a job. Where did you go? Because
Yeah.
I had a similar degree when I graduated, and it was just kind of like, all right, well, figure it out. Not that it's not helpful. You've got a
Yeah.
bachelor's degree, it's great, but it's like there's not an
Hmm.
obvious place to go next. Where'd you go?
Yeah. Well, I was leaning towards a communication major and doing like PR and different things like that towards the end of college. And I got a great internship working for the career services department at my school. And I loved it. And my boss and I just had a great relationship. And she asked me to stay on and work full time after I graduated. So I had the best job. I loved my job. I worked for 2 years for the university, and I ran career fairs. I brought companies to campus and just schmoozed, and just, had a 9 to 5 kind of, just,
That's
I don't,
that's great.
easy is not the best word, but it was fun. It wasn't a burden on my heart or my mind. It was, and I think in what I did know is I was kind of waiting for a ministry opportunity to come along, like to be a youth director in a parish or whatever. So, but that came along 2 years after college. But until then, yeah, I had an incredible job working at my university, so it was familiar and so much fun and really light, light
I love that. I
as
mean, there is a
compared
certain
to, yeah.
beauty to a job that you don't think about after work, right? Like, oh, it's, and it's all people
Yeah, I
friendly
knew that
and
for 2 years. Yeah.
yeah, then that was that.
That
No
was
more.
it. Yeah. 2 years of my life. Yeah.
So,
But thank God. Yeah. So,
at what point did you
yeah, it
get
was so
involved
great.
in, well, before, yes, you did end up
Hmm.
working at a parish, right? Did that
I
just come
did.
along
Yes.
at the end of that job, or what happened?
Oh, man. Uh, this wonderful priest would tell the story differently because he tells it in a really funny way. But it actually was, t- uh, just about 2 years. It was like after I graduated. It was June of or May of 2001. Okay, so to put this in context, May of 2000 no, sorry, two, no 2000, yeah, 2001. Um, and I got a call. My dad actually, this priest from Phoenix called my father and asked him if if he would let me leave New Jersey and go be his youth director in Phoenix, Arizona. And it was hysterical and also terrifying. But my dad called me down. I'll never forget it. It was my little sister's senior prom day, and I was taking her to get her hair done. And he calls me down and he says, Katrina, um, Father Chris from Phoenix just called me and he wants you to go be his youth director. And I think that you should go. And I had never been to Arizona before in my life. I was very much a homebody, and I went to college 45 minutes from my house, even though I lived there. And I lived at college, but I went very close because my parents actually encouraged me to live on campus.
That's good.
They told me I should. Yes.
Yeah.
So I never felt like my heart moved like that with that phone call, and I cried for a long time. And I met Father Chris 2 weeks later. He had come out he was in my neck of the woods. And that was it. And then I got on a plane in October. I am saying, October 9/11 year. So it was like just a few days. And I lived in New Jersey, where we could smell the smoke from the awful tragedy in the city.
And there were no flights for a while in September. I mean, it was a big deal.
No flights.
October of 2001 was a hard time to get on a plane, but it was also that
yes, it was.
Don't fly to Arizona. The terrorists will have won. Was that, there was that energy about it where it was you have to do it to be defiant. Sort of.
Well, there was just a lot going on.
Time that was, right? Like that was an interesting time.
Yeah, it was very interesting. I was like one of very few people on the plane that I was on. And my parents did not, they said, you can't go anymore for a while. But then I was like, no, this is something I have to do. And it really started my life in ministry. Every other step I took came from that one move that terrified me, but I knew it was God, and I knew I had to. And then I got connected with the camp I directed. I mean, everything. Yes, everything from just that one
grew
move.
Out of it. There you go.
Yeah.
Well, and it's so interesting to think about that as you're receiving that news, you're crying, but you're not saying no, right? What is that combination of emotions? What is that? I just think that's so interesting that you're talking about you cried and cried for days and days, but it wasn't no, I'm not going to do it, or I don't want to do it. It sounds like you sort of knew you needed to do it, but you're mourning this loss, this shift.
Yeah, and I think that's exactly what it was. It was, I know I have to go. It's going to be hard, but this is the call I've been waiting for, and it just felt like it was for me, and this was for me to do. And I was 23. I was not old. I was young. But I think I was ready. I had been doing youth ministry part-time for a while, and it just felt like this was what I was waiting for. So I think you cry because I knew I was saying goodbye to this life that I knew very much and was very comfortable in, and my siblings, and we're just all very, my brother was really young. My brother was 10 years younger than me, so he was young. I wasn't going to see him grow up, in high school or anything. So I don't know. It was hard, but for sure right. It's really kind of cool to look back on it all now, 20 some years later, and go wow, look what God did. All I had to do was say yes, and it wasn't easy, but because I said yes, all this stuff happened beyond me, outside of me, because of him,
That's neat.
So,
it's really neat. Well, and it's interesting too. There's just something lovely about the fact that you knew that was the moment. There's this bit, and it's true. There's this huge change in your life, and it's okay, I'm just here passing time until the thing happens, and when it happens, I'll go begin the next chapter. And that it's the turning point and the chapter, and it really is. It turns out to be. Right. Sometimes people do that and then it's oh, it doesn't work out. 2 months later, they're back home. But it really did turn out to be this big, profound moment. And that's really neat. All right. Well, we are going to take a very short break, and then we'll be back and we'll talk all about, what happened after that, after the big change. So we'll be back with Katrina Bitar, and keep in mind our number is 1-855-AF radio. That's 1-855-237-2346. We'll see you in a minute.
Everyday Orthodox with Elisa Bielatich Davis will be back in a moment. Give Elisa and her guest a call at 855-237-2346. That's 855-AF Radio.
The Ancient Faith Christmas Shop is now open and is packed with beautiful gifts for your loved ones of all ages. The Ancient Faith store is your one-stop shop for Orthodox gifts and resources. Whether you're looking for cards, calendars, icons, books, jewelry, ornaments, or home altar supplies, you can choose from many options. Find gift ideas for everyone on your list when you click the Christmas Shop tab at store.ancientfaith.com.
We're back with Everyday Orthodox with Elisa Bielatich Davis. Do you have a question for Elisa and today's guest? Call in now at 855-237-2346. That's 855-AF-RADIO. Here again is Elisa.
Welcome back to Everyday Orthodox. You are welcome to call in. We're live tonight with Katrina Bitar. The number is 1-855-AF-RADIO, and that's 1-855-237-2346. And for those of you who listen live, you guys know that after this program is Orthodoxy Live with Father Evan Armitage. And I just want to let you know, get ready. It's kind of a big night. It's the 10th anniversary of Orthodoxy Live. So we're going to be celebrating that a little bit. And Father Evan's going to be talking to all different sorts of people calling in, congratulating him. So maybe you're one of them. But at any rate, that's kind of exciting. So we'll be doing that later. But tonight here on Everyday Orthodox, we're talking to Katrina. And we were just saying that your life took this big turn with the, it's also picturesque, right? With the phone call comes in, but it's not a phone call to you. It's a phone call to your dad.
To my dad. Yeah.
Because these are traditional Antiochian priests and we ask permission.
Yeah.
Which is so funny. So when you moved to Arizona, I mean, here you are. Granted, there were some years in LA, but really you grew up in New Jersey and you are now in Arizona. You've had this family, you've had this very consistent parish community surrounding you for all these years. And now it's like just you out in Arizona.
Yeah.
Was that just a huge shock to your system at first?
Absolutely. But there was something really, I don't know, felt like home about it as well. I mean, for anyone who's flown into Arizona, after just kind of, I don't know, it was my first time that day when I moved there, my first time seeing Arizona. But I saw all this like brown stuff. What is going on?
Did you
Brown
fly into
mountains,
Phoenix?
brown trees. I flew into Phoenix.
Because Phoenix is funny from the air, right? Because it's like there are these big rocks
yes.
in the middle. It's like
just
city,
large
city,
rocks.
and these huge rocks in the middle. I mean,
brown
there are
rocks.
mountains
Yeah.
in the middle of a neighborhood, and then like more city.
Yes.
It's just, I was amazed because I think I have driven to Phoenix. I really didn't understand that about Phoenix until I flew in. So it is a dramatic entrance for sure.
Yeah,
Like
it was.
What planet?
And I remember it,
this?
Yeah. And then my priest was kind enough to allow me to live with them for a month, him and his wife. And I found my place, and he just kind of arranged for me to meet all the kids at his house one night. And it was just like I was, I don't know, immediately connected to them. We had a beautiful time, and it kind of kicked off from there. And I mean, it was difficult, but when I look back now, like I don't have memories of missing home or memories of, looking back at all. It definitely felt like forward, and this became my home, my parish. And Father Chris and I just kind of figured out things together, and I don't know where I would be without him for sure. And yeah, it was beautiful, and just got kind of settled in pretty quick, and just tried to learn as fast as I can.
Right. Get to know everyone immediately, just like that. That's beautiful. And so you had mentioned already that this kind of leads into other jobs that you've had, including Yes. How did you get started with Yes? Because Yes, when you came to it, Yes was just a brand new thing, right? And it wasn't even called Yes. But tell me, what was it when you came to it, and what was sort of the vision for it?
Yeah, so it was a program called OYO, Orthodox Youth Outreach, started by a priest in seminary when he was doing his thesis in seminary. He was just kind of observing. He had become Orthodox and had a previous background in youth ministry. in a Protestant church, and was just kind of looking at the church going, we need to mobilize our young people and give them opportunity to serve, and we don't have many missionaries overseas at that time. And he created this program, and we were friends, and he knew it was just 2004 is when the first OYO trip then was. And he asked me if I would, he's like, will you just trust me and bring some of your youth from your church and come on this trip thing I'm doing? I'm like, okay, we're going to go to LA. It was easy to drive from Phoenix to LA. And it was a weekend that was beyond transformative for me and the young people that I brought. I mean, it just opened our minds, just blew our minds, opened our minds. I had never seen them feel so connected to God and his trust in them and his just what he was inviting them into in the world for the sake of others. And they felt like they had purpose, and they couldn't believe the people they were meeting and how all of their just preconceived notions of people who were living in poverty and homelessness, like just all the things that they had in their mind, and myself too, honestly. I was 25 or so, and I was just, wow, something happened to me. And we just started going on all these trips all over the country. We would raise money at church. I would take them to Philadelphia. I took them to Nashville. I took them to DC. I just took a different group of kids and then, just whenever we could go. And then I started, the priest that was running the program at that time asked me if I would start running trips part-time. And then that turned into, I was in seminary. And then he asked me first year of seminary if I would take the program once I graduated. And that was it. And that's like that's the short story of a longer story. But that's how
Whenever,
it, yeah,
well, I
became.
want to, I want you to tell me a little bit about like what exactly happened on this trip or in general on those trips, because I think this is the part,
Hmm.
like this is the piece that is so hard for people to understand about yes. And
Hmm.
and you and I have had conversations about this before where I'm like, parents are trying to figure out like what we're going to do. And I'm not even sure how to describe it because it doesn't make any sense. Like there's a way that,
Yeah.
there's a beautiful spirit-filled thing that happens. And he like, when he set this up, he kind of figured out the the formula, right? For how to
Yeah.
talk to the kids, how to present things to them. But like, so what is it that everybody's doing? Because it's really like we always say, okay, it's just 1 or 2 days, usually one night, and they're having this experience and they truly come out of it transformed, having felt God's presence and feeling like understanding what they're called to. And it's amazing. And it doesn't, in a way, it doesn't make any sense because I can't explain what we're doing
No.
that does it. So what,
Yeah.
just for an outline, basically, like what even is this experience like? What is this trip like? And then I guess
Yeah.
after the outline, tell me why you think it works.
Yeah, it really is a difficult thing to explain to people because when you try to go into the nuts and bolts, it can sound really overwhelming. And really, I can see how giving the least amount of, specific kind of this is exactly what we're going to be doing is better because of how much this experience is the most effective. And also it's more peacemaking and kind of eases people into being stretched easier when they're not wondering and worrying about the schedule they're looking in front of them that says meal search, we're going to go out into the street and meet a new person and take someone who is homeless, and find, them something that they need. And just kind of going into those specifics ahead of time can be really daunting and cause a lot of anxiety, frankly. So I think what has really been helpful is explaining this kind of, we spend time in discussion about poverty, learning what it is to serve and why we serve and how we can be effective in our own community that we're learning about the particular needs of, and why are there certain things that keep us from serving, and asking all these questions right at the beginning of the day. Even for like a couple hours, we have these interactive experiences of how can we think more compassionately, how can we be more compassionate. And really, what is God doing in these interactions that he brings us together with people in completely different realities than we would ever experience? And what is God doing there? And why is it so uplifting to us? And then we go out and do the things that we talk about. We go out and connect with different ministries in the city that are, 90% of the time we're with people. We're coming together with people that bring us to this place of seeing Christ in a challenging situation, right? Where this is a stranger in front of me, but I look at them and I see someone who God loves. I see someone who is an image of Christ, and I kind of work through all of these ideas that have been cemented in my mind, either through just learned kind of, I don't know, distracting guidance or even just stereotypes or different things. And when you can look someone in the face who you are really challenged to love and set aside, all of the walls that have potentially been built up to connect with that person, then we hope that it's kind of easier for you when you're sitting next to someone who is your peer, who is your family member, who is your friend, and love them regularly, daily, consistently with that same love that you had to kind of wrestle with and work through to connect with someone who is just in a different reality than you. And the most powerful thing is to see that they have something to teach you and that that person becomes a friend in 30 minutes because of how deeply connected that they are to who they are, and that they are to God because they don't have many distractions keeping them from seeing God, from thanking God, from loving God. And I think that on that first trip that we went to in LA, when what my youth from my church were saying is like, I've never met such faithful people. And we talked about how just this ability to love so freely and to be connected to God so freely when you don't have, all the things keeping you from him and distracting you. Because like I can easily think that I am in control of my life and that my house is my win and my car is my win and my stuff is because I have money that I bought it with. But when we come together with those that have this patient endurance of being able to wake up having slept on concrete, having feared the few possessions they have being taken from them, having feared for their life, and for to connect with those people that when they thank God, they thank God. And it is not no, it's not a joke, and to be taught from them that way. And I don't know, I think that's what God wants, and that's what Saint Basil talks about with coming together with people. Like, why do I have resources that you don't have? Maybe it's because then I can learn from your patient endurance, and you can, you know, have the things that you need that I have too many of. I have too much of the money that God has given me, the stuff that God has given me, like the 3 coats I have, 2 of those are someone else's. And then I come together with you and we're friends and we're connected, and there's this beauty that happens there that is not a one-sided transaction.
No, it's not. And
So,
that was one of the most striking things to me,
yeah.
what you're talking about, that the kids meet people on the street whose faith is so deep. And,
Mhm.
they've been raised with this image of like, well, we're going to go give things. Like, you have so much and you're going
Yeah,
to give
help.
to the
Yeah.
needy. Right. And you get there and you find out. And I think Yes is very good at preparing them so that they'll recognize it when they see it. But to understand there are different kinds of poverty and there's a spiritual kind of poverty. And when they go out on the street, they'll see that it's reversed and that, in fact, their spirituality isn't as deep, perhaps, as someone else's. And they
Mhm.
just, it's beautiful, right? I mean, it's just, yeah, it's really neat. It's very striking. It's amazing.
Yeah, and even like I think we've gotten closer and closer to, just really like poverty looks different. It's not always financial, it's not always material. And we have poverty that we are going out with. Like we're going out and God is using us in our own poverty, through our own poverty, to serve even break down what we think about the people that we encounter at the mall, at Walmart, whatever, like, and connecting with them in a different way, that is kind of healing for everybody too. And so, yeah,
Amazing.
yeah,
Well, and so
every yes trip's a different experience, but I think that those things are the common things.
Well, and one of the great things is that you're training kids who've been in the Yes program and love it. You then train them to lead the next Yes trips. And one of the things you train them to do is to help frame what happens, right? So that at the end of the day, they can all sit there and be like, well, what did God do today? How did God work through people? And they start to pick out themes and motifs, and then it's beautiful. But it's lovely
Hmm.
because it's an opportunity for the youth not only to have that experience, but then to learn how to lead ministry, to get
Hmm.
the to be empowered and to have the confidence to then stand up and lead the next person, so that, God willing, this can build and build. And then, that's a lot of riches for our Orthodox Church through these young people
Mm.
who are transformed by the program. But it strikes me, so Yes is so much in person, and as you said, at Walmart, at the mall, on the street.
Hmm.
And then the pandemic hits and
Hmm.
Walmart's closed, and the streets are empty. What
Yeah.
what kinds of Yes trips were you doing when all of a sudden March of 2020 hit?
Well, for a while, no kinds of yes trips, you know. We it was really, I think, God God put some things in place before March of 2020 that allowed us to just really stop and go, like, okay, we can't do this one thing that we do. So what do people need right now, and how can we do the thing that we do in different ways that are possible and needed? And we had somehow, I don't know, God inspired this. We started in January of 2020 this monthly, what we called it a call to action, where we would have a speaker come, and it would really be this like empowering, like inspiring, thing from a speaker, talk about taking initiative in our own lives and communities, and all these things. And so we had our March happened, and then we said, okay, I guess we should be doing this monthly thing weekly. And we started doing these weekly calls to action. And it became like this gathering place of all these people we've never encountered before on trips. We're just connecting with us, coming every week, and jump ahead. Like it turned into like, okay, summer came. We were like, we can do trips online, and we started doing trips online with actual hands-on service because we were seeing the needs that our communities were having, and they were not getting smaller. Like, the needs were growing. Even if we couldn't go out, we were going to do what we could to equip people to serve in their backyards, like whatever the need was, that was going on there. So um, people were struggling. And then what happened was the events that we would do, the yes trips, like kind of transformed over the past couple of years to become this consistent community that gathers regularly. And a lot of those people have become yes leaders. And we've met people through just opening our door online, and we do these what we call series now. We do 4 a year. We have a topic, and people are coming together, for 5 nights in a row, having small groups led by our yes leaders, led by their peers, connecting. And the first series actually started in fall of 2020, and we called it an Advent series. And it started simply because we were responding to this need that the people in our community were saying, like, we don't know how to talk to each other anymore. Everyone is fighting, everyone's in conflict. It wasn't a healthy place to be. And it kind of transitioned from seeing, working to see Christ in a stranger to working to see Christ in someone who was your sister, brother, family member, friend, who was thinking differently than you about politics, about whatever. And we had this series called How to Have Healthy Conversations About Hard Things. And it's just started this whole thing where, that was the first series. And then, again, we had our 2-year anniversary for our series now in Advent, where we're doing a series that's very relevant to people now about acquiring a spirit of peace and being resilient amidst turmoil, and talking about coming out of criticism, coming out of rejection, and how to process all these things. So, anyways, I think it really gave us a time to pause and meet and think about current needs, meet whatever was going on during, when COVID was, when things were shut down or whatever. What did people need? And they needed community more than anything else. So, yeah, everything just transformed over the past couple of years, and it's, I think, fuller and whole and consistent, vibrant,
I
and
think so.
less
Well, and
again. Yeah, like
I think too, your yes trips, the ones that are in person, now that they've resumed, they're different than they used to be, right?
they are.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and not dramatically, but I think we're focused in on doing a day trip that is very kind of specific to your community. There's not a lot of kind of idle time, but it's really beautiful in building like consistent, opportunities for people. We do more kind of talking about what happens after the trip and how we can continue to support people and creating something consistent. And I think how it's also different is that the needs of young people seem to be different. They're so excited to kind of set aside their technology and just be with people and look in people's eyes and connect, for even if it's just a 9 to 5 thing. um, it's that need is really, like, they're articulating that very much, and there's a need to have challenging experiences and to do things scared and to do different things and to, which is kind of harder now. I don't know, so
I, well, there's something
yeah.
about having been holed up in our houses for a while, and especially for kids going through these formative years. They spent a couple of years in the house doing school online, wearing masks all the time. Like, it's true that we're maybe more inhibited than we were before, and so there's this
Hmm.
beautiful
Hmm.
opportunity. But what I love about Yes is that you guys are always watching the need and pivoting as the
Mm.
need shifts. And of course, the pandemic was a great, tremendous example of that. But I think you just see it all the time. And I see how Yes is growing into something that is not just like one trip a year for your parish. Like for my parish's experience of Yes, originally it was once a year we would do a Yes trip and we would have this great experience together. But it only happened one weekend a year. And now there are all these Yes
Mhm.
opportunities that go on all the time. And it's just growing and growing.
Mhm.
And I'm so excited to see it. Tell me a little bit about, you have a new program called internships. What are
Mhm.
you doing
Mhm.
with young people now? Like, what are you doing there?
Yeah. So the internship experience is essentially came from what we kind of wanted to respond to with seeing the need becoming more personal for people to identify their strengths, find their purpose, kind of help them along their way with their personal development, and also give them an opportunity to create an effort on their own for their community, a community they belong to, whether it's something that is like a one-time kind of event or something a consistent resource. But we started in January of this year, and people apply. There's a stipend for the internship, and we call it the internship experience. You can read about it on our website, yesnorthamerica.org. And we take 3 interns in the spring, summer, and fall, so 9 total in a year. And it's just been amazing to essentially walk alongside, you don't have to be in college to do it. It's 18 to 23, but you can be in any year of school. And just kind of allow them to dream and to think about what's on their heart and what they care about and a need they want to address, and just to support them as they do it. I mean, people have done various projects with, different focuses and just based on where their hearts are at. And it's just been incredible. It's really been beautiful. And
It's
um,
neat. It's
yeah,
been really neat to
it's
see.
really
I'm
neat.
kind of from a distance, I'm watching, and it really is neat to see. And just for some examples, some of the kids, one of them did like a farmer's market that was a free farmer's market
Hmm.
for people who couldn't afford to be going to the grocery store. She actually specifically targeted everyone on the buses, right? Because she was riding on the public buses
The
and
bus stop. Yeah.
she was like, people can't even
Mm-hmm.
carry grocery bags around. Like this is hard. And so she went to like a major bus stop that was a big transfer station and set this up so that
Mm-hmm.
people could come and get produce. And like that's beautiful. And it's one of those things that like you're showing
Mm-hmm.
her that, you see a need and you're thinking about it, you can make it happen. Like you can step up and do
Mm-hmm.
it. And it's just so, but then other things too, right? Like there are, what is it with there's one program with making the liturgy more accessible. What was that one of
Yeah, one of the interns is working on a template for a sensory service. So, how do you create a liturgy experience? That is kind of like supplemental to going to liturgy with your community that allows you to kind of work on the things that are difficult for you, like sounds and um, different things that can be accommodations for people who have special sensory needs. Um, and then can hopefully make being in liturgy just a better experience for them and their families. So really incredible project. Just
that's
people are kind of really, just creating from their hearts of what they care about. So. Mm-hmm.
And I love that it's not yes saying here's a template of 3 different projects, pick one. It's really like it's guided by them and what their gifts are and what they see and what is on their heart to fix. And I just love that. But
Mm-hmm.
that's so much of how that's how yes operates is very, like I said, like you're looking and you're seeing the need. You really live one of the things that you teach, which is that you can't just go in and assume you know what the problem is and what the fix is and just like step in and do it.
Mm-hmm.
You need to actually ask people like, how can I help? What can I do? And you'll
Mm-hmm.
find that what they need from you is probably not the thing you assumed they needed. And that's been the beautiful thing about watching Yes grow over these years is that Yes is just sort of answering the needs. And so it's not so much top down as it is need driven, and it's beautiful and it pays off. It
Mm-hmm.
works. And so, I just want to tell our audience, Yes is very near and dear to my heart. And I think it's just really one of the best, probably the best youth ministry project we do in the United States in our Orthodox churches because it really helps transform and develop our kids' hearts. And it's creating a whole generation of people who feel confident and empowered to step forward and to do something to make the world a better place. And that is an amazing and beautiful thing. And I think it's what Orthodoxy needs at this moment right now. And so if you're able, go to yesnorthamerica.org and check it out. There are videos, there's all kinds of interesting information. If you know someone who should be doing this internship experience, show them the website,
Mm-hmm.
have them sign up. And if you're moved to become a part of it, you can support Yes. Yes needs
Mm-hmm.
gifts from people to help do all these beautiful things, to pay for all the Yes trips and the internship experiences and all of the amazing things that are
Mm-hmm.
growing out of Yes. So if you're able to go to yesnorthamerica.org, become a monthly donor like me and, support with a small gift every month, you'll be amazed at how those small gifts add up over time. And what a joy it is to know that you're a part of this beautiful thing that's just doing such good things.
Mm-hmm.
But, Katrina, I love having you on the program. I'm so glad that you came back on. And tell me, for Yes, is there anything like you just added in the internship experiences? I know, is anything
Mm-hmm.
changing again? Are you adding more and more stuff?
Well, we actually have a big thing coming up in January. We're evolving into having regional coordinators, and we're going to start with 3 people and kind of kick it off and see how it goes, and hopefully eventually have 7 regional coordinators that can support people after they encounter Yes and help kind of cultivate their connection to Yes in their first time Yes trip or being an intern or whatever. But we want to be closer and we want to be more accessible. And we have 3 Yes leaders, incredible young women that are going to be starting on our staff and have these part-time positions that can serve our communities. So things, God is providing opportunity. We're so grateful for the ability to do that. And we just,
That's
we invite you all to be part of it in whatever way you can, by giving a gift, by bringing us to, we want to come if that's where you're at. We
That's
would
right.
love to
Yeah,
be with you.
invite it, and you can actually invite yes to your parish. That's right. You can just go online.
Yeah,
check
that's
it
how we
out.
set up trips. Yeah,
It's neat. Yeah,
we
you
come
just
by
invite them.
invitation. Yeah.
That's it. You just say, yes,
So,
we need you. And they come. It's very cool. Well, Katrina, thank you so much for coming on the program. I just loved talking to you.
thank
I so
you.
appreciate it. And thank you to our listeners for joining us tonight. Come back next Sunday night and meet another everyday Orthodox Christian. Have a good evening.